Hey guys, how you guys doing? I thought I would make this topic of what are the most disturbing movies I have ever seen because, I mean, it's pretty subjective. I've seen a lot of crazy shit in my lifetime when it comes to films. You know, some films that I do find very disturbing are like a Serbian film, House of Flesh Mannequins. Let's see, August Underground's Mortem, and you know, uh, 964 Pinocchio, Rubber's Lover. Those films, just so disturbing. Either the disturbing content or the like nature of it, like the disturbing. I don't know. It's pretty subjective, but there were two films that I knew. I mean, I had to make this video on because if I never saw these two movies, I probably wouldn't be making this video. So I'm gonna go into detail why these two movies are so disturbing. So, all right. Number two, There's only two movies, obviously. The first one is Men Behind the Sun. This is one of two movies I'm choosing. This is a Hong Kong film that spawned a franchise because you have this film, then you have 2, 3, and then part 4, which is Black Sun: The Nanking Massacre. I think part 3 is called The Narrow Escape, and I forgot what part 2 was. So, what part 2 is called, but this is obviously a very disturbing film, not just because of the subject matter, but it's based off of actual events. This is obviously a film on the notorious Unit 731 concentration camp. What they did to Serbia and Russian, I can't remember, Chinese, whatever, prisoners, and no, I think it's Japanese prisoners. What they did to them. They would do all these horrible experiments, and yeah, I did rewatch this film recently, and I still felt that same emotion watching it the first time. This movie right here, like, when the movie's getting started, like, sort of at the beginning, like, some of the disturbing scenes, first off, when the movie's getting started, sort of towards the beginning, one of the death scenes that they show is you see a woman carrying a baby. The baby's wrapped up, and they rip the baby from her arms, chuck it in the snow, and then they walk over to it, and the baby's screaming, and then they kick snow over it. The baby gets buried in snow, and then the screams get muffled. Then the screams do stop. It wasn't particularly gory, but it just the idea is absolutely horrific. And there was also the scene where the woman, her arms are out in the cold, and like her hands get put into like really cold water, and I can't remember what else happens. Like her arms are completely frozen, and then her arms get put into some like real hot water, I believe. When she takes them out, they're kind of decrepit, and then the guy just degloves. I hate that term, but just for this video, I'm gonna use it. Her entire arm. Sorry, guys, I had to do something, but yeah, I mean, her arms get freaking degloved, and she's just screaming, I mean, I can't imagine the pain. The effect for its time, that effect looked great. All the other effects are just perfect. That effect did look a little wonky, but it looked great for its time. And then this is one of the two infamous scenes. The first one, there's this young mute boy that gets, they want to check his health and stuff like that, they want to give him a checkup, and the guards tell him to tell this this boy to bring him over, and we'll check his health and stuff like that. So it kind of builds up, and then they strip him down, they chloroform him, they put him on the table and stuff, and they cut him open. They do an autopsy. They cut his stomach open. They take his organs out and stuff like that. This is the only movie I have ever seen where they used an actual child's body for a prop, and that's why the director did get into some trouble and stuff. And then this is the most infamous scene. There's this room full of rats, and there's like thousands of rats, and okay, maybe not thousands, but there were a lot of rats. And they throw this cat into the pit of rats, and the cat just gets torn to freaking shreds. And oh my god! I mean, I felt so uncomfortable watching it. Just, oh god, it's very unsettling. And yes, they did use the director did say they smeared like honey on it and stuff like that, and to make it look like the rats were eating the cat. Really, they were licking it. They weren't actually killing it. So yeah, it's definitely a disturbing one. And then there's also one. This is just a very quick shot. Obviously, they have a shelf, and there is a scene where there's a shot there, you see a jar, and there's like a gutted fetus inside of a jar. When they're I think it's in one shot where they're getting ready to destroy, like blow this camp up. I saw a gutted fetus in a jar, which was really nasty to see. Yeah, it's just unsettling. Oh god, the first time I watched this movie, I questioned myself. I just couldn't believe what I just saw. It was crazy. And not to mention the frostbite, this scene right here, when her hands are degloved, her arms, that's that shot right there. That's what that is. Yeah, I remember, at the time, this was the most, I would say, this. It's always this and the next film, which I'm going to talk to, which will be the most disturbing movie I will ever see. Yeah, Men Behind the Sun is definitely a film that I can't watch all the time. I mean, this is probably the second and last time. In fact, this is a real good movie. This is a fantastic, the story is fantastic, and so, but it's so disturbing but it's going to be hard to talk nice, considering the fact that, it is based off of true events, but you have a very good story still, I mean, but just, oh god, it's just so, it can be an infuriating film to watch, considering the subject matter. So hopefully I don't get demonetized for showing this on the cover, but it is what it is. Alright guys, moving on. Now, the most disturbing movie I've ever seen is, I mean, it's a pretty complicated one, but, in the end, I thought, what, this is a movie that I feel like, there's so many reasons why this is the most disturbing film I've ever seen and will ever see. Traces of Death, Volume 1. Now, I have seen all 5 of them. In fact, I do have the freaking catastrophically rare, hard to find DVD set for Traces of Death, and I've seen all 4 of the all 4 sequels. But while those films are disturbing, in fact, Part 5 would be the second most disturbing film in the series, but with this movie right here, I saw this when I was younger on I think it was archive.org. I watched it and Jesus Christ. I remember I was trying to sleep, I remember images from this movie haunting me. I mean, I saw this at a young age and I regretted it. Now I'm sort of got a little too desensitized to stuff like this, but with this right here, with this film, um, yeah, I mean, it has some really unsettling. Now, Traces of Death, if y'all are not familiar with it, it's a 5-film shockumentary series. Uh, it comes in this box set here. You got all 5 of them, and what makes Traces of Death stand out from Faces is because Faces of Death had like 60% real authentic footage, and then the rest is staged or reenacted. But with this franchise right here, it is nearly 100% genuine footage. There could be stage stuff here and there though, but for the most part, it's all real. Like the first film does have some stage stuff, but oh my god, I mean, I remember the first time I watched this, it was on archive.org, and I was very young. I didn't know what I was going to get myself into. I didn't realize how extreme the film was going to get. And, yeah. But I will say, oh my god. Yeah, it's going to be hard to talk about this, but, the first time I saw this movie, I remember, I mean, I didn't know how extreme this was gonna get. I saw people reacting to it and stuff like that, like Stephen, Bloodworth, when he was in college and stuff. He brought his friends over and they reacted to this. And John from Modern Warfare, yeah, he did a reaction to this. It was the first 15 minutes of it, I believe. Yeah. And I thought it was a freaking joke. And then I didn't realize how extreme this was going to get. I was young, so then watched this. Oh my god, I just couldn't believe it, what I watched. But with Mondo Films, this and Faces of Death and Mondo Ken are like the 3 most known shockumentary series of films. Traces of Death might be the most repulsive Mondo film series. I mean, I have seen all 4 of the Faces of Death movies, but there's that, and I haven't even talked about the most disturbing scenes. I rewatched this film, and I think I did like a reaction to it, and it was still, I was just like, oh my god, I was angry. I was getting mad at one scene. I did a reaction video. It was on the Willie Nation channel, which like the first channel I created, which is long gone, and that channel is just gone, completely gone. I read to the first 15 minutes of it again and stuff, and it still disturbed me. And then when I decided to watch more, because I was thinking, maybe I might do like a whole topic, like a review and the reason why this movie disturbed me a lot. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why this movie is disturbing. I mean, it's not just the fact that there's more real footage, but the actual footage that's in here is super, worse than the footage in Faces of Death. Obviously, it's more real footage. But, the scenes that really stuck out, I forgot to give a graphic warning, but y'all knew, I mean, these 2 movies are super disturbing, so This one I'm gonna give a little graphic warning, and there will be mentions of suicide in this next part. So, um, like for example, like the first like there's like different segments. Like it shows like crime scene photos in one part, and then it shows suicides in one part. There's one scene that pissed me off more than anything that I mean, oh god. There's a scene, probably like not too far in the movie, like near the beginning, where they have this pig. It's tied, legs and arms are tied up, and they have these two guys. They're wearing like lab coats and stuff like that, and they have this blowtorch, and they burn the pig ablaze while it's still alive. And the pig is squealing, screaming, and stuff like that. And this thing does go on for a while. It's horrific, and I was pissed. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I remember when the first time and the second time I saw this. I had the same reaction. I was like, going, why do you need to do this? Seriously. Yeah, it was absolutely horrific. Animal stuff pisses me off. There's also seen a less, not as, horrible scene where a bear does climb on a bear gets electrocuted on a wire, like the transformer like explodes or something, and then the bear falls. From what I've heard, the bear survived. So, there's also the infamous televised suicide of Bud Dwyer. That is very, very, yeah. I mean, that actually made me, it was definitely a tough scene to make it through. So Bud Dwyer was he was a politician, I believe, that, a Pennsylvania state treasurer that was caught accepting bribes, and he went to this press conference and stuff, and, he's handed out envelopes and stuff. He grabs a larger envelope with a handgun, with a revolver inside, and he pulls it out. Everyone's begging him for him to stop, and, he tells everyone to back off and that this could, hurt someone and all that. He doesn't think twice before he pulls the trigger. He has the gun right here in his mouth, and he pulls the trigger, and then his body slumps to the ground, and he's looking down. You see blood pour out of his nose and stuff, and it's just, you hear everyone freaking out and stuff, and it's just, that was just really shocking to see. And there was also a very disturbing interview with a guy that tried committing suicide by, blowing his head off with a shotgun. The guy's face is obviously disfigured and stuff. He talked about, how he, tried blowing his face off, and his face had to be surgically plastered on. I think the guy's name was James Vance, I believe. I think that's his name. Yeah, it was James Vance. He was the guy that attempted suicide but failed. That was definitely a disturbing one to watch. There was also a surgery. There's also, different types of surgeries. There's autopsy footage. There's also graphic, crime scene photos. There's one where a woman had her face completely, basically eaten off because, her pets were so hungry that her dog and, she passed away in her home, and her pets were so hungry that that the only thing they could really do at this point is eat away at her face, and that was a very disturbing image to look at. And there was also one other photo where It was the aftermath. This guy must have been a cartel victim. I mean, this guy had a roll of quarters along with some explosives placed into his mouth, and his face has been. It's just a photo of him with a completely destroyed face, and it's just very disturbing to look at. And then one other photo where you see a guy, he's basically ripped in half, and his leg was ripped off of his body. And that gets me into the narration, the haunting narration of this movie. The narration in this was obviously done by Damon Fox. That's my dog, guys. Ignore it. The haunting narration by Damon Fox is definitely something very chilling. The lines he says and all that. I mean, for example, like some of the lines that he says. I mean, like the photo I mentioned of the guy's leg being ripped off his body. He said his infamous ever wonder what the inside of a leg looks like? Sprayed, splayed, and filleted like a side of beef? Well, now you know. I mean, it's very dark, the narration in here. There's also the line he says, there's also a sex change surgery, which was pretty disgusting to see. Very disgusting. Probably the most, graphic scene in the film. It is very disturbing to watch, but is it the most disturbing scene in the film? I mean, no. But it was just a surgery, obviously. It's still disturbing to watch. Don't get me wrong. He says, "Cross your legs, kitties," ha ha ha, and chuckles and stuff. There's also, like I said, there's surgeries, there's autopsy footage in here. There's a baby brain surgery, which was pretty stomach turning. That was hard to make it through. The first time I watched it, and the second time I watched this, it didn't get any better. And then, I think that's all I needed to say about this. I mean, this is just the extreme upsetting content combined with the overall tone and the haunting atmosphere, the haunting narration, the dark narration. It makes Traces of Death, just definitely a tough one to watch and stuff like that. So, I think this is the most disturbing movie I have ever seen, and will probably ever see. So that's Traces of Death. Now, these two films I rarely watch just for this reason alone. I mean, these two films, I will probably, do a review for this one. This one I already did a review for, but it's obviously private, so I don't know when I'm going to review Men Behind the Sun, but it's obviously going to take a while. But yeah, these two films are very disturbing. These two films are definitely the most hard to watch. These are the two most upsetting watches, I think. Two most horrific watches, I will say, that I've ever put myself through. So, anyways, that was a fun video to make. What is the most disturbing movie you guys have ever seen? Just comment down below. Whatever movie that you think really disturbs you, it's just super hard to watch. So, it's just super unsettling to sit through. But, anyways, guys, hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to comment, like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos coming up. Talk to you guys later. Stay awesome. Take care. Stay awesome. Peace out, guys.